Melbourne. Over to you.
For more than 100 years, the Melbourne Cup has stood as the symbol of Australian sporting excellence. From the heroics of Farley, a national hero that took on the world and won, to modern-day champions and magic moments that inspire an entire country. For some, it's more than just 2 miles. It's the end of a lifelong journey in the pursuit of horse racing's holy grail.
Chapman and Jezebel's fighting back on the rails and won the cup.
And my beautiful wife and children home watching, I love you all, and we done it. Woo!
At last, it's back again. 12 months on from that last piece of wondrous theatre, a new chapter will be written into the annals of Australian sporting history. Today, a sense of achievement and national pride is revealed in all of us and displayed for the world to see. So stand up and cheer, Australia. This is our finest hour. The colour, the excitement and the passion.
Ben Ryan, Martin Power the leader. Doremus is coming at him. Doremus after Martin Power. Martin Power and Doremus, they in it. Oh, it's close.
What a great finish. That is one of the great finishes in Melbourne Cup history.
From pillar to post. This is what horse racing is all about. Welcome to the spirit of Australia for the 1999 Foster's Melbourne Cup. Live and exclusive to Network 10.
Away they go. The gates have crashed back and the big one is underway. As they come down the straight the first time. It's going up on the outside of. You've got 2,000 metres left to travel. Right over the Melbourne Cup.
This is the Foster's Melbourne Cup. Run over 3,200 metres. It's been Australia's greatest horse race and greatest social gathering for all of this century and much, much longer. In recent years, its influence has spread across the equator and to the northern hemisphere. And so it's with a great deal of pleasure we welcome our telecast to viewers, millions of them overseas. 100,000 people have gathered here at Flemington, Australia's international racecourse, for what is now acclaimed as the staying championship of the world. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Webster. Yes, it's 3,200 metres. It's 2 miles. Throughout, there's raucous cheers, lots of champagne and roses, and it really is much more than just a horse race, as you are about to discover. Wherever you're watching, our forces in Dili, Moreton Base in Antarctica, or a pub in North Queensland, the internationals keep coming here and have done for the last few years, and they just marvel at how this race really does, and I know it's a cliche, but it really does stop this nation for about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. In fact, the race record is 3:16.3, set by Kingston Rule back in 1990. The horses are circling in the mounting yard. We're getting ready for the race, the last one of the century, the last one to be 100,000 people, we're sure. The Melbourne Cup's not far away, and let me join Jenny Chapman, Richard Freedman, and my friend Peter Donegan. It just doesn't get any better than this.
It is probably the finest moment in Australian sport every year, I think, Tim Webster. Have a look at these 24 brave horses that'll compete in the Foster's Melbourne Cup. Number 1 is Tie the Knot, to be ridden by Shane Dye. Guy Walter is the trainer. The last horse to carry number 1 saddlecloth to victory was Rising Fast way back in 1954.
Well, this horse's form was fantastic leading up to Saturday, and when he ran the McKinnon Stakes, everyone's been wondering what happened to him. They've put the blinkers on to try and improve him here. He's a fantastic stayer, there's no doubt about that. He's won 2 Sydney Cups, and if he's right, he'll give this a shake, but we've still got a little query over him now.
The world's most powerful stable, the Godolphin stable, saddled up number 2 Central Park. Frankie Dettori, who rode the previous winner, rides here. Saeed Bin Saror is the trainer. The last horse to carry the 2 saddlecloth to victory, Hyperno, back in 1979.
Well, interestingly enough, I've had a look at all the European horses. This horse is relaxed, and that's a good sign. He's been a pacemaker at his last 2 starts, and they weren't glorious runs, but he is capable of better. 3 starts back, he won over 2,000 metres in Rome, and that is a very good effort, a nice horse, and a good chance. After Tory, 19 alley will make it difficult, but he's a great rider.
The favourite, number 3, Sky Heights, trained by Colin Alderson at Cranbourne, ridden by Damien Oliver, who has won the Melbourne Cup aboard Doremus in 1995, and he is looking to become the 4th horse in the 90s to win the famous Caulfield Melbourne Cup double.
Well, he's just done absolutely everything right, Sky Heights. He's still a little bit on his toes. He was quite toey when he walked into the mounting yard, but he looks an absolute picture here, and I think he's going to be extremely hard to beat in this race, particularly on his Caulfield Cup win.
Number 4, Maridpore, trained by Michael Moroney at Flemington now, but has come from the Northern Hemisphere to take part in this race. Stephen Arnold has his first ride in the Foster's Melbourne Cup. The number 4, Saddlecloth, is the most successful in Cup history with 11 winners, and you can see that it's gone out $5 on Super Tab, out to $61.60.
Yes, a beautiful horse carrying the nose roll. He got a check in the Caulfield Cup, so take no notice of the run. He finished well back, but he is a good racehorse, and he can win this race.
5, Arena, trained by John Hawkes at Flemington, to be ridden by Darren Gauci, finished 15th in the race last year, and Jezebel successfully came from barrier 16 last year. That's the gate Arena's got today.
He was the VRC Derby winner from last year. He's been racing very consistently without winning. He might be looking for the 2 miles on his run in the McKinnon Stakes, so he's there with a place chance.
We won't be able to take a look at number 6, Yavana's Pace, because it is not in the mounting yard. It will make a late entry. We'll talk about the horse anyway. There he is in the birdcage. He is not in the mounting yard. He will come in late because he can get very stirred up. No horse, Richard, has ever won the Cup from barrier number 18.
Well, there's a first for everything. Records are made to be broken. Yavana's Pace ran second at his last start to the great stayer, Cape Tara. Beaten a long way, but they wouldn't have brought him down here if they didn't think he had a chance. Mark Johnson, a great trainer. Richard Hughes will give him a good ride. Barrier 18 is the worry.
He looks pretty relaxed down in the birdcage area. Number 7, the Hind, finished 16th in this race last year. Jimmy Cassidy, the rider. Peter Hayes is the trainer, the last Adelaide Cup winner to subsequently win the Melbourne Cup Sub-Zero in 92.
Well, it's a great ride there for Jim Cassidy, and Jim knows exactly what these big races are all about. I think this horse could come into the race. He's certainly not without a chance. It was a good effort in the Caulfield Cup. He was running on strongly there, and he's there with some chance.
8, Travel Mate. David Harrison from Hong Kong takes the ride for James Fanshawe, and the number 8, Saddlecloth, has provided 3 of the past 12 winners.
Well, you can see Travel Mate there. There's sweat marks all over him. This is one horse that has not taken kindly to the large crowd and the noise, but he has got great form in Europe. He's run second at his last 3 starts, and they're in good quality events. He's drawn barrier 7. He is my outsider pick, but gee, I would like to see him relax a bit.
9, Skybow, having his 4th start in the Melbourne Cup. He finished 3rd in 96, 7th in 97, 8th last year, ridden by Larry Cassidy for Len Smith.
He's been desperately unlucky in a couple of those Melbourne Cups, Peter, but really his form leading into those Cups in years gone by was a lot better than it is going into this one here today. And he's getting older. I'd say at very best a rough place chance.
And he's got gate 11, the most successful barrier in Cup history with 6 wins. Number 10 is The Message, will be ridden by Aaron Spiteri. His first ride in the Melbourne Cup for John Ralph. The last horse to carry the number 10 Saddlecloth to victory was way back in 1937.
Well, I think The Message has got the job ahead of him here. I hope he guns around nicely for Aaron and gives him a good look, but his form wouldn't indicate that he's a chance here. 7th at his last start in the Cox Plate. Not really good enough, I wouldn't think, Pete.
Number 11, Streak. Greg Hall is a Melbourne Cup winning rider. Maybe Bart Cummings will win Cup number 11. We'll find out shortly. He doesn't have Streak. Robert Smurden has Streak. What a great thrill for him. And the last Moonee Valley Cup winner to win the Melbourne Cup, Kingston Rule, 1990.
Well, he's just done everything right, Streak, and it would be a great thrill for Robert to win it as well. 51.5 kilos with Greg Hall on board. He's racing well. He can come home with a strong finish. He's won at big odds.
Number 12, Lahar, Corey Brown, having his 2nd ride in the Melbourne Cup. Trainer is Paul Cave at Warwick Farm, and the number 12 Saddlecloth is the 2nd most successful in the Cup history with 10 wins.
Well, unfortunately, Lahar hasn't really produced her best form at her last 3 starts. 9th of 11 in the Cox Plate, 10th of 18 in the Caulfield Cup. Not really good enough. I think it's a bit of hit and hope with Lahar.
Second coming, number 13, ran 23rd in this race last year. Greg Childs reunited with the horse on which he won the Derby a couple of years ago, and the trainer is Michael Moroney. The last Derby winner to subsequently win the Cup was Delta back in 1949, the Derby, 51 the Cup.
His recent form hasn't been all that bad, but after he won the Derby 2 years ago, his form really went off the boil. So I would say he'll be up there for quite some time. He likes to be up on the pace, but I think towards the end he'll find him out.
Number 14, Able Master, and the rider here is Grant Cooksley. And this horse is trained by Bruce Wallace at Flemington. Maybe an omen. In 1965, Light Fingers had both the 14 Saddlecloth and Barrier 6, and that's what Abel Masters got.
Well, good to see him nice and relaxed in the yard, but Abel Masters' form probably isn't up to this. His best form is in the Metropolitan, and that hasn't been great form, hasn't held up. But he is a son of Zabeel, and we know how they excel at 2 miles.
15 Bohemian, one of John Sadler's 2 runners in the race. Jason Patton rides in the Melbourne Cup for the first time. Barrier 5 has had the equal second most Cup victories with 5.
Bohemian, he won't mind this distance. I think he'll run it out very well. He's a very, very good Flemington horse as well. 50 kilos on his back. He's got him very nicely, and I think he's some chance in the race.
16 Figurehead. Opie Bosson making his Melbourne Cup debut for Kay Lane at Mornington. The last horse to win from Barrier 24. Gala Supreme back in 73.
Yes, Figurehead 2 starts back won the Cramden Cup in record time, but subsequently ran 12th in the Caulfield Cup. Probably not up to this field, and it would be a great surprise if Opie Bosson can get him from Barrier 24 to win the race.
Only 8 7-year-olds have won the Cup, the last vintage crop in 93, and Rogan Josh is 7 years of age, but he is trained by the master Bart Cummings, ridden by John Marshall. JB Cummings looking for Cup victory number 11.
And he gets a great weight drop here. He drops to 50 kilos. He's just done everything right. As a 7-year-old, Bart's just done an excellent job with him. He's going into this race as an extremely fit horse and a top chance.
18 Lay Beal, Stephen Baster, also making his Melbourne Cup debut, the second of John Sadler's runners. The last winner to carry number 18 was Peter Pan way back in 1932.
Well, what a great run from this mare in the Caulfield Cup. She ran second, only beaten by Sky Heights by a very, very slim margin. She's in great form. She loves this track. She's trained here. The worry is an inexperienced jockey in Melbourne Cups in Barrier 23. 19
Brood, Lance O'Sullivan, the rider for Michael Moroney, the third of his trio. Last winner to carry 19, Colonus, back in 1942.
Brew ran on very strongly in the Geelong Cup, and then in the Saab he also was noticed running on extremely strongly as well. He's an improver. I think he'll be running on towards the end of this race. I just wonder about his class, so maybe a place chance.
The number 20 Saddlecloth has not been successful in the Melbourne Cup this century. Gawless in 1897 was the last winner. Lady Elsie, Lenny Beasley and Cliff Brown are hoping to change that.
Well, she's run home fairly at her last 2 starts without troubling the winner. I wouldn't think the form is up to it. Lenny Beasley has got a job ahead of him from Barrier 22.
21 Rebor. The 21 Saddlecloth has only been successful once in the Cup. Batali back in 1923. Another one of Bart Cummings' runners, and the defending Jockeys champion, Chris Muntz.
2 nice wins at Randwick at his second and third start ago, but he drops 8 kilos here, so he comes in with 49 kilos. He is an improver, Peter, but I just don't know whether he's quite up to it at this stage.
Jezebel carried 22 to victory last year. Will the Warrior do it this afternoon? To be ridden by Gary Grills for Richard Otto at Seymour.
Well, his form's impeccable. At his last 2 starts, he's won. He's won the Benalla Cup, which is the way that Black Knight came through to win the Melbourne Cup. He's drawn Barrier 20, but Gary Grills is very experienced, a son of Zabeel. He'll go well at the 2 miles. 23
Zab 1 has won at this track and this distance, and the only horse in the field to do so will be ridden by Sam Hyland for James Maloney.
His recent outings have been pretty poor, Peter, and I'd say he's a long odds shot here, and I don't like his chances.
And the last horse to carry 24 Saddlecloth to win, Sister Olive in 1921, Zazabel, the third of Bart Cummings' runners, ridden by Eddie Wilkinson.
Well, I think her form speaks for itself. Not really up to the form line here, but give Eddie Wilkinson a nice run round in a Melbourne Cup, and I think he'll enjoy it. 23 horses are making their way onto the track, and Yavana's Pace is making his way around the mounting yard, and there it is. The famous gold 3-handle Loving Cup, Yavana's Pace, going up towards the start now. Last minute tips, Jenny Chapman.
I'm going for number 8, Travel Mate, to win the Melbourne Cup from number 18, Le Beal, number 3, Sky Heights, and a roughie, number 11, Street.
Richard Freedman.
I'm sticking with Sky Heights to beat Le Beal and Rogan Josh. I like Travel Mate until I saw him sweat up.
For me, it's Sky Heights to win from Rogan Josh and Le Beal. There are the selections from the panel of experts. There has been a flurry of activity in the betting ring. Tim Gossage, has there been a last-minute plunge?
Not really, Peter. The early money for Ty the Night, it has drifted out a couple of points. Sky Heights will definitely run the Cup favourite, but you can get each way odds. The best back runner in the last 15 minutes, number 17, Rogan Josh.
$32,500 worth of trophy. The Foster's Melbourne Cup is about to be run in 1999. We're heading to a break as the excitement builds at Flemington on the first Tuesday in November.